Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would ever be having a conversation like this. When it first happened, I couldn't talk about it at all. It was just too raw, too painful. It took me many, many years to finally get to the point where I could talk about this. It was time to finally stop trying to hide from it and bury it. It was time to just get it out in the open and deal with it. I stopped calling my mother Mom many, many years ago. Now she's just Stephanie.
No.
Tomorrow will be 7 years to the day since I saw her last. And I'm perfectly okay with that.
This can't be for you.
Let her rot. She dies in prison, all the better. I never knew what normal was. Everybody keeps trying to tell me, this is normal or that is normal. I don't know what normal is. All I know is how I grew up. Didn't see much of Dad growing up because he was always working. Mostly what he did, and he loved doing, was he worked on naval ships. He spent many, many years doing what he had to do to provide for us. So it's just me at the house with Stephanie and the girls, Guinevere and Ruby Grace. Stephanie's priority was always Stephanie first.
Hey, Carol.
The public face was this perfect wife, perfect mother. And then the private face was, she was a master manipulator. She just hid behind that holier-than-thou Christian image.
Hi, how's it going?
Stephanie was all about looking the part. She never actually wanted to play the part. My relationship with Stephanie was always, as far back as I can remember, was always more of at arm's length. When I got old enough, Stephanie had started sending me on errands to the little Jiffy store, grabbing a gallon of milk or a carton of eggs.
Honey, don't forget the milk.
Okay, Mom.
One day, borrowed one of my sister's scooters, and I'm not used to the scooter, okay? Come down the hill, and we gotta make a turn to get to the store. Well, I turned the handle a little too tight, and it just came out from under me. Took a huge chunk out, okay? Bleeding all over the place. Run back to the house. And Stephanie sees the blood, and she's like, what happened?
Did you get the milk? What happened?
I fell off the scooter.
Didn't care a damn bit. The blood running down my leg. Oh, okay. What was it?
It hurts.
Well, you know where the Band-Aids are. Go clean yourself up.
Stephanie really, I don't know if it was more disinterest or just meh. She certainly cared less for me as she did for the girls. There never was any real close relationship between us that I can remember. The traveling growing up started about 9. We really didn't stay in one place too long.
Come on, kids. I want to get everything packed up before your father gets home.
Dad was always working, so during the day, We'd be packing, just taking boxes, packing stuff up.
Josh, when you're done in here, I want you packing up the kitchen.
We were never really given a reason. We weren't told why. We were just told, hey, start packing.
I don't understand why we're moving.
Because we are.
I didn't know it at the time, but Stephanie was the reason we moved. Usually what it was she would blow through the money and she wouldn't pay the bills. So about the time the debt collector started calling, or the light company was getting ready to shut off the lights, or the landlord came knocking, we're moving again. Stephanie's uncontrollable spending was a constant issue at the house between her and Dad. But Dad would go along with it to try to keep the peace in the house. We went from New Orleans to Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and then we moved to Virginia Beach. About 4 to 6 months we'd be in one spot, and then Stephanie would blow through the money, wouldn't pay the bills. Time to go. None of the arguments were ever in front of us. They were always behind closed doors after we had been sent to bed. He tried many times to teach her, you know, you got to take care of the bills, then you can do whatever.
I don't want to hear it. From now on, I'll just finish it myself.
And for the next 3 hours, all you heard was screaming and hollering.
What am I supposed to do?
We could just hear the raised voices and all the shouting.
That's it. No more shouting.
You're the one who's supposed to be
Enough!
fighting for us.
One day I asked Dad, you know, why is Mommy being so mean? And the way he explained it to me was that he wasn't giving her as much money as he had been because he was making sure the bills were paid. I was in math class when she picked me up. Stephanie and Gwen and Gracie, all three of them. I asked, hey, what's going on? Why are you picking me up? Like, don't worry about it, just get in the car. So I get in the car and we go. And we drive the hour and a half to Green Cove Springs. We pull up in front of this iron gate. I'm like, where are we and what are we doing here? I wasn't told what the place was until we got inside.
Right here.
When you first arrive, there's like 3 or 4 employees. One interviews the woman, and 2 more interview the children. And she's like, do you know why you're here? I don't even know where here is. What is this place?
Well, this is a women's shelter.
What's that?
What are you talking about? Women's shelter for what? It was a shelter for abused women.
Why would we be here?
Have you ever seen your dad hit your mom?
No,
But they argue a lot, don't they?
What?
I guess.
I told the employee that if this is a domestic violence shelter, there's no reason for us to be here. My dad isn't abusive. So I don't know why we're here.
My dad wouldn't hit anyone.
That's not what your mom says.
I was not happy about this at all.
Look, why don't we get you settled in and we can talk more later?
But I didn't have any contact with Dad. I didn't have any way of getting a hold of him. He was working a job in Mississippi. So, make the best of it. The end of the 3.5 weeks, and we went home and everything's hunky-dory again. The only reason we even went to the women's shelter was a manipulation tactic for Stephanie to get more money each week out of Dad. It worked, I guess. We almost had to rush him to the hospital. We think that was one of the first times that Stephanie tried to poison Dad. Stephanie. I'm not even gonna touch that one. I don't want nothing to do with that bitch. That's the first time I've seen that face since I went and saw her in jail. That's her trying to put on the normal, decent person face for the rest of the world. Trying to hide those dirty little skeletons. Trying to make it seem like she's not the bad person that she really turned out to be. Stephanie never changed her spending habits. She would always just blow through money. They would easily go and spend $600-700 worth of stuff.
Hey guys, what's all this?
I really didn't understand Gwen and Stephanie's relationship. Stephanie's priority was always Stephanie first. And then Gwen came in, then Gracie, then me at the bottom. If Gwen and I ended up wanting the same item, Gwen would get it before I would. Stephanie was definitely grooming Gwen. There'd just be piles of stuff, and we kept running out of money.
Oh, nice. So pretty.
What's going on?
It's not a big deal.
And finally, Dad took control of the finances.
I don't know what else to do. Look,
What do you think you're doing?
just stop.
William.
He would hand her money to go buy groceries, and that was all she would get. He even took her bank card.
You'll get him back when you need him.
She wasn't happy about it. Everybody always says, you know, with that exasperated tone, oh, I'm gonna kill him. But you don't actually mean you're gonna go and kill him. I don't think he realized just how far she'd be willing to go. It really was just a regular night. We ate dinner, and it was only like an hour later, and I was in my room playing on my computer, and I heard him fly off of the couch. All I hear is pounding footsteps, head for the bathroom, and then as someone's throwing up. I just poked my head out and asked, what's going on? You know, is everybody okay?
Dad, you all right?
Everything's okay, honey. Your dad's just not feeling very well.
And Stephanie just poked her head out and said, no, everything's fine. Your dad just got sick, that's all. Didn't think nothing of it. I mean, I'd been sick a few weeks before throwing up. It was just a 24-hour stomach bug. But he was in there for 3 hours straight. And he spent 2 days hugging that toilet. He couldn't even go to work. And he actually must have lost 15, 20 pounds in those 2 days. It was bad. We almost had to rush him to the hospital. We think that was one of the first times that Stephanie tried to poison Dad. We don't have any proof. We don't have anything but just suspicion that it was poison. But Dad very, very rarely got sick. And nobody else got sick. He was the only one that got sick. I get up one day, and Dad is actually home. He had taken a week off. He asked me, hey, run out to the shed and go grab a razor for me. Okay, sure.
Here you go. Thank you.
When I walked into the bedroom behind him and saw the burn mark, I'm like, what happened?
What's that?
Oh, your mom dropped a candle last night. Burnt the carpet. Come on, help me cut this out.
Oh, give me a hand, will you?
The explanation she gave Dad was that, she just lit one of her smell good candles and was going to put it on the dresser. Dropped the candle on the floor. But I don't know if he realized what she was trying to do. After everything happened, I found out that Stephanie had actually told a family friend Dad was asleep that night, and she tried to light the sheets on fire with the candle while he was in the bed, and apparently he had made a noise, so he had probably started snoring real loud again, and she jumped, candle goes flying and burns the carpet. If she'd have managed it and Dad hadn't woken up, he'd have been burned alive, and the house would have probably gone up too. She heard me coming, and as soon as my foot touched the linoleum, she snatched that knife up and just came at me with it. And there's Dad. And you can tell from this picture, he's pretty happy. And that's not a fake smile. If Dad did anything wrong, it's that he tried to help too much. He never tried to take advantage of anybody. He always tried to, treat everybody fairly. And that was the greatest lesson that he imparted. Was, be the best person that you can be to everybody you meet. Yeah, he was a stand-up guy. Before I turned 18, as my independence came out stronger and stronger, she responded by trying to be more controlling. We'd gotten up that morning, and just like any other day, we ate breakfast, and she throws down a pink piece of paper in front of me.
What's this?
It's been coming for a long time. Now sign it.
It's a restraining order against Dad. Dad was always working, so I never really got to see that much of it.
No,
Yes!
I'm not signing this. I'm not going anywhere.
I am your mother.
I'm like, no, go away. I don't want to hear it. She was always using us kids against Dad. Because she knew he was never around, Dad was the closest thing to a real friend I had for most of my life. And I didn't want to lose that. And I knew if I went with her, I was going to lose that.
You will do what I tell you to do as long as you live here.
And she's just screaming at me.
Sign the damn paper.
No, I'm not signing.
I tried to walk out and remove myself, de-escalate the situation, do the right thing. As soon as I did that, she started swinging on me.
No!
Sign it!
No!
She never acted like that towards Gwen or Gracie. And I don't know why. I don't know where all this anger kept coming from, but I was starting to think for myself a lot more than she liked. So she was trying to do what she could to kind of whip me back in line, and it wasn't working.
I'm out.
Josh!
She couldn't control how I thought. I went into the kitchen to grab a drink of water. And she heard me coming. And as soon as my foot touched the linoleum, she snatched that knife up and just came at me with it. She had never done anything like that toward me before, so it was completely unexpected.
Mom.
I had to run before she could get to me. Haul ass back across the house, back to my room. Slam my door, throw my chest of drawers in front of it to keep her from following me in. And she just stood there at the door, screaming and pounding on it, trying to bust it down. I don't know what her intentions were. I don't know if she was actually going to stab me or just cut me or try to scare me. I don't know. All I knew was it's probably time to get the hell out of Dodge. Popped out my window, took off. I know I can crash somewhere else for a couple days and let everything cool down for a little bit. I didn't think anything of it until I got out of the house. Finally caught my breath, calmed down. This crazy just tried to kill me. I knew Dad was coming home that weekend. I just had to wait it out a couple of days. And I knew once Dad got home, everything was gonna be okay. So he came and got me and I explained it to him. And he asked, "You wanna go into town and make a police report?"
Do you want to press charges?
No. I wouldn't do anything anyway.
It's my word against hers, there's no point. Nothing will come of it. And probably my sister's word against mine as well. Gwen and Stephanie were always teaming up against me. Anytime Stephanie was giving her side of a story, Gwen would usually backed up Stephanie's side. Gwen and Stephanie really got close. It had kind of become them against me.
I'm sorry, Josh.
You don't have to apologize. It's not your fault.
So there was nothing we could do. We just went home. Either I was gonna end up in jail or she was gonna end up in the ground. And I didn't want either of those to happen. So I'm like, okay, I need to get out of here. Best way to do that, join the service. This was while I was still in training. I'd finally gotten away from all the crap back home. Well, when I left, I didn't look back. It worked out pretty good for a while. My cousin had sent me a message saying, "Hey, you need to call home. There's been a death in the family." This was totally out of left field. None of us saw it coming. None of us expected it. I loved being in the Army. I really did. In Iraq, and I know everybody watching this is gonna say some crap about what I'm about to say, but Iraq was the easiest and best time of my life. Swear to God. My base was the hardest hit. We were the one that was attacked the most out of all of our bases in the Middle East. You got bombs going off everywhere. There's always someone trying to kill you. And even with all of that craziness, all that confusion, still 1,000 times better than what I grew up with. If someone shot at me, I could shoot back. Growing up, I couldn't grab a knife and chase her with it. No matter what, no matter how bad Iraq got, I always knew I had someone watching my back. my first year in service, every payday, she'd call me.
Steve.
She wouldn't call me any other time.
Hey.
Hey, Josh, it's Mom. It's good to hear your voice.
She would start with the standard pleasantries.
So how are you? Are you staying safe?
Yep. Everything's all right.
Oh, that's good.
And inevitably, she'd ask for money.
Anyway, things here are a little rough.
I knew better because I knew Dad was taking care of the bills. No, I'm not sending you anything. I wasn't gonna be another payday for her.
No, I'm not sending you anything.
She tried to do the I love you thing, trying to manipulate to get more money.
Josh, baby, you don't understand.
The conversation would just devolve from there, and I'd end up hanging up on her.
Don't be that way, Josh.
I gotta go.
And that'd be it for 3-4 weeks. And then phone rings.
What do you want?
The bills are piling up here.
I got tired of it. Look, quit talking to me. I'm done. Don't call me again.
I'm not sending you any money.
Josh.
Bye.
Josh.
After all the crap I'd put up with for 18 years? Nah, you're not gonna swindle me like that. I was on base at the time, and we had Wi-Fi set up around our work areas. And my cousin had sent me a message saying, hey, you need to call home. There's been a death in the family. Both of my uncles and my grandfather had been having health issues, so I figured it must be one of them. Called my uncle. He's like, you sitting down? Yeah, what's going on? Who died? Your dad did. What? And the police are thinking murder. They're thinking homicide. It was with a pickaxe. It looked like a robbery gone wrong.
I gotta go.
It took everything in me, every bit of strength I had from everything I'd been through, to hold myself together, walk outside of my room, stick a cigarette in my mouth, and I didn't even get to light it. I lost it. Collapsed right there. Just broke down. And I sat there for a good 10 minutes. And then another sergeant, and she saw me there just bawling my eyes out. She's like, are you okay?
Hey.
I just found out my dad died. Come on, let's get you up, get you back together, get you home.
We're gonna pack your bags and we're gonna put you on a flight back to the US, okay?
Anytime you go overseas, you're routed through Kuwait. When I finally got to Kuwait, I went to the media room to get on Facebook. And as soon as I logged in, the very first thing on my newsfeed was the updated story. My stomach dropped. Stephanie killed him, and she'd ended up arrested. It took a little bit to sink in. I had to read the story 3-4 times to really grasp it and realize what was going on, what it was saying. This was totally out of left field. None of us saw it coming. None of us expected it. picture with it was Gwen and Stephanie's mugshots. It was her and my sister that had killed my dad. She made Gwen do it. This is one of the very few photos of me and him together. For many, many years, he was my only friend. I'll never get to see him again. Even now, 7 years later, it's still... that loss is still pretty strong. And the mugshots. Shocking would be an understatement. Felt like a sucker punch to the gut, honestly. Bad enough with knowing that I'd lost my dad, but then finding out that it was the two people that were supposed to be closest to him that were the ones that did it. Just mind-boggling. Before the funeral, we discussed whether or not we wanted to view the body. Because when Gwen and Stephanie killed him, Gwen grabbed his pickaxe, went into his bedroom, and hit him with it 5 times.
Was he asleep? Did you hit him anywhere other than the head?
In the chest.
With, what were you hitting him with in the chest? The axe. Why were you hitting him in the chest?
Because he kept making noises. That sounded like he was snoring.
So you're trying...
out. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just so scared.
The police, when they did their investigation, could never prove that Stephanie was in the room when Gwen swung the pickaxe. But even to this day, I maintain Stephanie had to be in that room. Because if she wasn't, Gwen would have never gone through with it. Apparently, Stephanie had been planning this for a very, very long time, like years. And her original plan was to get me to do it, and I'd take the blame. But when my independent streak came out and she realized she couldn't mold me and shape me to do it, she started grooming Gwen to do it. They did the deed that Wednesday night, and then they came back the next morning and acted like they had found Dad like that.
I want you to tell me, is he breathing? I don't think so. So he's not conscious and he's not breathing? Okay. What's all over the bed, honey?
This was taken outside of the crime scene. Person in the center is Stephanie, trying to act all hurt and confused about what had happened. At first glance, you would think this is just a grieving widow. I could see where, if you didn't know Stephanie and you didn't know her history, I could see where you could be fooled by that. And this would be one of the crime scene photos. That was Dad's living room. Gwen and Stephanie didn't do half a bad job of tossing the place, making it seem like it was a robbery gone wrong. The reason they got caught was because there was no sign of forced entry. The great irony of this whole thing, they were like addicted to crime drama shows. Every time someone would get caught, especially for that particular reason, they would always say, I would never be that stupid. I'd never get caught for a reason like that. And then they go and do it. If she ever sees this, I know she's gonna take offense to it. I don't give a damn. The only reason I went was because I was trying to get answers that nobody else could get, that even her attorney couldn't get. My visit with Stephanie did not last long. It only lasted about 45 minutes. And I told her straight up, the only reason I'm here, I want to know why. She wouldn't tell me anything. I asked her again, why would you do this? And that's when she started trying to make it out to be my fault because I wouldn't send her money.
You didn't help at all.
None of this would have happened if you'd have given me money.
What did you expect?
And the longer I sat there and the longer I looked at her and the more crap that spewed out of her mouth, the angrier and angrier I became.
Josh!
I left because I was starting to get into such a rage that if I didn't leave when I did, I was going to end up getting arrested myself for trying to go through the glass and get my hands on her. Haven't spoken to her, haven't gone to see her. I've had nothing to do with her since. But the visit with Gwen was a lot more heartbreaking. As soon as she saw me, she started crying. And the whole time, all she could say was that she was sorry. I tried to ask Gwen why. I tried to get past all the tears, but she couldn't stop crying. I got a few letters from her here and there, but nothing ever explained anything. It's been 7 years. It's about time for some answers.
Everything. Everything. We had nothing. We had plenty of money. He had $6 grand. $6 grand. You know how much he gave us? $400. Our lights were about to be turned off. We have no car insurance. We have nothing.
And this is supposed to be someone who's caring for you.
Yes. I had no choice. I had to do it.
I'd take a twist I wasn't expecting. He did not actually have the $6 grand. And he gave Stephanie most of what he got. He kept just enough to keep his lights on and to buy food. For several years after it first happened, I used the term brainwashed. And honestly, I seriously believe that, yeah, she was. That was definitely Stephanie talking. Gwen always had more loyalty than she did smarts. If I had managed to somehow convince Gwen to get out of that house, Dad would be alive, and we'd all have been better for it. I don't think Gwen should have gotten quite as long. She is a guilty party because she did commit the physical act, but she is also a victim as well because of Stephanie's manipulation and her mind warping and her abuse. As far as Stephanie, not long enough. Unless we get lucky and she happens to die in there, not long enough. I beat myself up for many years with what if. What if I'd been there? What if I'd seen some? What if I'd paid more attention? What if I had done more to get Gwen and Gracie out of there? Gracie, she and I aren't close anymore. We talk here and there. I really don't know if we'll ever actually be close or not. I know I've got PTSD, and I know it's not strictly service related. I know that this event and everything that happened while growing up definitely contributed to it. I've learned how to kind of cage my anger, keep it under wraps. But my therapist told me, look, you know, you can keep it caged all you want, but eventually that cage is going to break. And when it does, it's not going to be pretty. That was what took the longest out of everything, was learning how to process my emotions. I've gotten better at it, but it's still a struggle even now. That's kind of part of what made me choose to do this. And it has. This has definitely helped. Been oddly therapeutic. When I say I've forgiven Stephanie, I haven't so much forgiven as just let go.
It began on a humid night that never ended. August 12, 1998, Palm County, Florida. The air was thick, electric, like something waiting to happen. Locals remember that night because of the storm that never came, the lightning that flashed over the ocean but never touched the ground. But that wasn't what they should have remembered. They should have remembered the silence that followed, the kind of silence that swallows a whole town. At 9:42 p.m., a 23-year-old woman named Laura Jennings left her shift at the Seabreeze Diner on Route 41. She told her co-worker she was heading home, just a 10-minute drive down the coastal road. She never made it. By morning, her car was found abandoned beside a sugarcane field. Doors locked, keys still in the ignition, purse on the passenger seat. No struggle, no signs of theft. Just a single open window and the faint smell of salt air. Detectives called it strange. The sheriff called it a disappearance, not a crime. But the locals, they knew better. They'd seen the way the wind carried whispers in that town. They'd felt the unease when another girl vanished 2 years before. Unsolved, unnamed, forgotten. For weeks, search parties combed the cane fields, the mangroves, the canals that cut through the swamps. Dogs caught her scent near the waterline, then lost it in the mud. A fisherman reported hearing a woman scream near the bridge at midnight, but no one else did. The investigation stalled before it even began. And then, as the days turned into months, the case went cold. Laura's family never left town. Her mother, Diane, taped her daughter's photo to the front door every morning. A new copy each time the old one faded in the sun. Her father drove the same road every night, headlights sweeping over the field where her car once sat, hoping for something, anything. But Palm County forgot her. The diner reopened, the gossip shifted, the seasons changed. The sheriff retired. Files gathered dust. The story of Laura Jennings became one of those local legends people mention at bar counters. That girl who vanished near the cane field. Yet the truth never left, it waited. 2 decades later, in 2024, that truth came back, hidden inside a speck of blood no bigger than a raindrop. But before that, there was the long silence. In the early days, detectives tried everything they could. They interviewed co-workers, ex-boyfriends, customers from the diner. They ran background checks, retraced her route, drained part of the canal. But the only thing they found was an old hair clip. Plastic, cheap, caught in the reeds. It wasn't hers. Rumors spread. Some said she ran away. Others whispered about the trucker who stopped at the diner every Thursday. There was talk of a cult out in the Everglades, animal sacrifices, strange lights seen over the marsh. Nothing concrete, just fear, feeding itself. The Jennings family refused to believe she'd left willingly. Laura was saving for nursing school. She'd just been promoted to shift lead. She had plans, bills paid, groceries in her fridge. Nothing pointed to a disappearance by choice. Then the phone calls began. Unlisted numbers, static on the line, a voice breathing, sometimes whispering her name. Laura. Once Diane swore she heard her daughter crying on the other end. Faint, distorted, distant. The calls stopped after 2 months. Police traced none of them. By 2001, the file was sealed as inactive. The case became a ghost in the system, another missing person swallowed by time. But in 2010, something resurfaced. During construction near the old highway, workers unearthed a piece of fabric buried under sand, floral print, faded but intact. The Jennings family recognized it immediately. It was from Laura's uniform dress, the same one she wore that night. Near it, investigators found bone fragments. Small, delicate, human. They sent them to the state lab. Results were inconclusive. Degraded DNA, insufficient for identification. The bones were stored in evidence, tagged, forgotten. Years passed. Technology changed. Florida built new subdivisions, new highways, new memories. But in a cold basement of the Palm County Sheriff's Office, a box sat sealed. Jennings L., 1998. Then came the email that reopened everything. March 2024. A forensic genealogist from the state crime lab requested permission to test old samples for DNA reprocessing, part of a backlog reduction program. The Jennings file was one of hundreds. The sheriff's office agreed, unaware that this random inclusion would rewrite 2 decades of silence. The sample, a trace of dried blood found on the inner doorframe of Laura's car, had never matched anyone in the old databases. But this time, the system was different. It wasn't just CODIS anymore. It was open-source genealogy, family trees, ancestry profiles, third cousins who'd sent their saliva to a commercial website years ago. The new results came back with a partial match, not to a known criminal, but to a living relative, someone in the system by accident. It pointed to a man named Ethan Cole, age 52, living less than 20 miles from where Laura vanished. Ethan had no criminal record. A local contractor, father of 2, active in the community. The kind of man you'd wave to from your front porch. But the genealogical match was undeniable, a near-perfect paternal link to the unidentified DNA in Laura's car. Detectives reopened the file quietly. They surveilled him for weeks, collected discarded coffee cups, cigarette butts, anything. When the results returned, they were conclusive. The blood in Laura's car, the same trace no one could identify in 1998, belonged to Ethan Cole. But how? Ethan wasn't on the radar back then. He didn't know Laura. Or so he said. But investigators learned that in 1998, Ethan's company had a contract with the county to pave the very road Laura took home that night. He'd been working night shifts in the area. His time card from that week was missing. When questioned, he appeared calm, cooperative. He said he remembered the case. Everyone in Palm County did. But he denied knowing Laura. Denied ever entering her car. Detectives leaned in. They told him about the blood, about the DNA, about the match. For the first time, his voice cracked. "I don't know how that got there," he said. The room went silent. They searched his home, his truck, his storage unit. They found nothing linking him directly to a crime. No weapon, no clothing, no keepsake. Just an old photograph tucked into a toolbox. A group picture of road crew workers from 1998. In the background, blurred but visible, was Laura, standing near the diner, smiling at someone off-camera. The sheriff who reopened the case called it the most unsettling evidence I've ever seen. It wasn't proof, not legally, but it was enough to fracture the illusion of coincidence. Ethan's wife filed for separation 2 weeks later. His neighbors stopped talking to him. Reporters camped outside his house, flashing cameras through the blinds. The town that once forgot Laura Jennings was suddenly awake again, shaken, divided, afraid. But something didn't fit. Forensic analysts reviewed the scene again, the photos, the reports. They found inconsistencies. A second blood sample on the passenger seat, never tested. New results confirmed it belonged to Laura, but its placement suggested something else. She'd been injured inside the car, not dragged out. There was no sign of a struggle outside, and that raised a question no one could answer. If Ethan Cole was guilty, why was her car left untouched, perfectly locked, like she'd vanished from thin air? Investigators dug deeper into his past. They found that in 1998, his younger brother, Daniel Cole, had disappeared for 3 weeks. No record, no explanation. When asked, Ethan said Daniel had been in rehab. But there were no files, no admissions, no proof. Neighbors remembered Daniel. Quieter, stranger, the one who didn't talk much. He'd often wait in the truck outside construction sites, staring out at the road. When detectives located Daniel in 2024, now living in Alabama under a new name, they found something chilling. A rusted necklace with a small locket. Inside, a faded photo of a young woman. Laura Jennings. The case, once solved, suddenly wasn't anymore. And in that instant, every assumption fractured. The blood in the car wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. Because the DNA that pointed to Ethan Cole also pointed to someone else. Someone no one had expected. The revelation came like a tremor through the department. The DNA match that once pointed squarely at Ethan Cole now split in 2 directions. The system flagged a shared lineage. Brothers. Blood that ran from the same father, the same roots. It meant the trace inside Laura Jennings's car could belong to either Ethan or Daniel. Investigators stared at the screen in disbelief. 2 decades of silence, and now the story had doubled back on itself. 2 brothers, 1 missing woman, 1 impossible overlap of blood. They started over. Daniel Cole had vanished from Palm County in late 1998, just months after Laura's disappearance. No missing person report, no official trace. He simply dropped off the map. Family told neighbors he'd gone to rehab in Georgia. There were no records of it. His driver's license expired in 1999 and was never renewed. It was like he'd folded himself out of existence. When Alabama police finally tracked him down in 2024, he was living in a trailer outside Montgomery under the name Daniel Reed. 50 years old, unemployed, quiet, polite. A man who kept to himself. When agents knocked on his door, he didn't ask why they were there. He simply said, "It's about her, isn't it?" Inside, the trailer was dim, stale, cluttered with rusted tools and cigarette smoke. On the wall above his bed was a collection of newspaper clippings, yellowed, curling at the edges, every one of them about the 1998 disappearance of Laura Jennings. Detectives took him in for questioning. The interview began calmly. Daniel spoke softly, eyes cast down, answering each question like a man who'd rehearsed every line for years. He said he remembered Laura. She served him coffee a few times at the diner. He'd been part of the road crew paving the stretch near Route 41 that summer. He said she was kind, the kind who remembered names. When they asked about the necklace, his voice broke. "She gave it to me," he said. The room froze. "She gave it to me the week before she disappeared. Said it was for luck." It didn't make sense. No one had ever seen them together outside the diner. No mention in her journal, no photo, no witness. But there it was, a piece of her, found in his pocket 26 years later. They pressed harder. Why hadn't he come forward? Why leave town right after she vanished? Daniel's answers fell apart. He said he'd been scared. Said his brother told him to go. Said the sheriff wouldn't believe him. "What did your brother tell you, Daniel?" A long pause. He said it was an accident. Detectives leaned in. "What accident?" Daniel didn't answer. His hands trembled. His breathing quickened. He whispered something no one in the room could quite make out. The recording later revealed the words. Muffled, almost inaudible. She wasn't supposed to be there. For investigators, it was a spark. A moment where the story bent toward something darker. They re-examined everything: the route, the timeline, the evidence buried beneath 2 decades of dust. Laura's car had been found 10 miles from the diner, parked near the construction zone where the Cole brothers were contracted to work. Records showed both Ethan and Daniel clocked in that evening, but Daniel's card was stamped 7 o'clock p.m., out by 8:30. Ethan's shift extended until midnight. Yet multiple workers later said they saw Ethan leave early, around 9:15, the same time Laura left work. Detectives reconstructed the timeline minute by minute. The diner closed at 9. Laura's co-workers said she lingered for a few minutes, counting tips, laughing with another waitress. Security cameras showed her car leaving the parking lot at 9:36. She disappeared from the highway at 9:42. Ethan's last known activity? A radio call logged at 9:40 from a construction truck near mile marker 17, the exact stretch where Laura's car was later found. The connection was undeniable, but there was something even more unsettling. When forensic techs examined Daniel's belongings, they found a box under his bed, shoe set, sealed with tape. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Most were of roads, highways, overpasses, random, meaningless. But one photo stood out, a snapshot of Laura Jennings at the diner counter, smiling at someone behind the camera. The angle was intimate, almost familiar. Written on the back, in faded ink, August 8th. She said she wants to leave. Investigators sent every photo for analysis. Some had timestamps matching the week before her disappearance. Others were older. One, disturbingly, showed a stretch of highway where search teams later found bone fragments in 2010. Detectives confronted Daniel again. He said the photos weren't his. He said Ethan had given him the box years ago. "You kept them all this time?" "I couldn't throw them away," he murmured. "It felt like she'd come back if I kept them." The line chilled the room. Back in Florida, Ethan Cole maintained his innocence. His lawyer claimed contamination. That DNA on the car could have come from shared equipment, tools, even blood transfer from Daniel. He denied ever meeting Laura, ever being near her car. But the pressure was building. The media called it the Kane Field cold case. Reporters camped outside the sheriff's office. The Jennings family gave their first interview in 20 years, voices trembling on live TV. Diane Jennings said she never forgot Ethan's face. She remembered him sitting at the diner once, years before, watching her daughter refill coffee cups. "He smiled at her," Diane said. "It wasn't friendly." Detectives searched for corroboration, but records were scarce. Witnesses gone, evidence degraded. Still, the case was breathing again. Every headline pulled the past closer. Then came the autopsy breakthrough. The bone fragments found in 2010 were retested using next-generation DNA extraction. This time they got a full profile, and it was Laura's. But there was more. Embedded in the bone was a metallic trace, microscopic particles consistent with asphalt compound, the same type used by the Cole brothers construction company in 1998. It placed her body near the work site. It placed her death within that night. Ethan's lawyer called it circumstantial. Investigators called it a map. They expanded the search radius around mile marker 17. Ground-penetrating radar found something buried under 3 feet of earth. The remains of an old drainage pipe filled with hardened tar. Inside, forensic teams discovered shreds of fabric, blue cotton, consistent with Laura's uniform. It was no longer a disappearance. It was a homicide. News spread fast. "Florida cold case, now a murder investigation!" The headlines screamed. Palm County was alive with old ghosts. Former deputies returned to offer statements. Locals flooded hotlines with tips, dreams, confessions. One call stood out. A woman named Cheryl Hunt, a former waitress at the Seabreeze diner, claimed she'd seen Laura arguing with a man in a construction jacket a few nights before she vanished. She never reported it, said she didn't want trouble. But when shown a photo lineup, she hesitated, then pointed at Ethan Cole. The case that had slept for 26 years was now wide awake, howling. Detectives obtained a warrant for Ethan's arrest on suspicion of homicide. Cameras captured the moment he was led out of his home in handcuffs, expression blank as rain fell over Palm County. The image flooded national news, but even as the town celebrated justice delayed, one detective, Sergeant Marlowe, couldn't shake a feeling. Something was off. The blood evidence, the timing, the brother's confession, it all fit too neatly, too perfectly. He reviewed Daniel's interview again. The moment Daniel whispered, "She wasn't supposed to be there." What did that mean? Not supposed to be where? Marlowe dug into Daniel's employment record. He found that Daniel had been removed from the road crew 2 days before the disappearance for erratic behavior and substance issues. Officially, he wasn't working that night, but the time card still listed his punch-out. Someone had falsified it. Who would have access to the system? Ethan. As site supervisor, he managed all time entries. It could mean Ethan covered for his brother, or it could mean Daniel was there, hidden, unrecorded. Marlowe visited Daniel again in Alabama. The man looked older now, smaller, hollowed out. He refused to speak about Ethan. He just kept repeating the same phrase. "It was supposed to be me." "What was supposed to be you?" Marlowe asked. Daniel lifted his eyes, watery and red. She wasn't the one he wanted. The words struck like a blade. Back in Florida, detectives searched Ethan's old storage facility again, this time digging through crates long ignored. In one, behind stacks of paint thinner, they found a small metal tin. Inside were fragments of a photo, burned around the edges. Reassembled, it showed a young woman with dark hair. Not Laura. Someone else. Her name was Marissa Dale, missing since 1996, 2 years before Laura. Same county, same road, same unresolved case. DNA testing later confirmed that a strand of hair stuck to the photo belonged to Marissa. The connection shattered the narrative. 2 women, 2 years apart, both vanishing near coal construction sites. Ethan was tied to both. Daniel hovered on the edges like a shadow, aware, guilty, but not central. For investigators, the line between the brothers blurred until it disappeared. One acted, the other watched. But which was which? The evidence said Ethan. The behavior said Daniel. The DNA said both. It was the kind of riddle that tore cases apart. A perfect storm of family, silence, and shared blood. As trial preparations began, prosecutors called it airtight. The public called it closure. But Marlowe wasn't convinced. He kept looking at the photos, the maps, the timelines. He saw patterns, circles drawn around construction zones, always near water, always near sugarcane. He pulled a satellite archive from 1998. At mile marker 17, the night Laura vanished, there was a second construction truck logged leaving the site at 9:48 p.m. The driver's name was missing. The truck was never found. Marlowe realized the case had one more missing piece. A ghost vehicle, a driver erased from records. He called Daniel again. Who was driving the second truck? Silence. Then slowly, he said, "I was." "But you weren't?" Daniel's breathing cracked through the line. "No, but someone was." "Who?" Daniel whispered the name, and for the first time, Sergeant Marlowe felt the air go cold. It wasn't Ethan. It wasn't Daniel. It was someone they'd both been protecting. Someone who should have been gone long ago. The name Daniel whispered barely made it through the static. Faint, cracked, like something pulled from the bottom of a well. But it was enough. Raymond. Marlowe froze. There was no Raymond in any report. No worker, no subcontractor, no driver by that name listed in the county logs. Yet Daniel said it with such certainty that the air around him seemed to thicken. "Raymond who?" Daniel's voice broke. "Our cousin. Raymond Cole. He wasn't supposed to be on site that night." It was like the case had split open again. A third Cole. Unrecorded. Unmentioned. Detectives scoured the archives. There was a Raymond L. Cole listed once, a temporary hire, terminated in 1996 after a drunk driving arrest. No forwarding address, no social security record beyond that year. A ghost in the paperwork. Marlowe followed the thread. He found an old mugshot, blurred, half-lit. A man in his mid-20s with the same sharp jawline as Ethan, the same eyes as Daniel, but darker somehow. Deeper. A grin that didn't belong in a booking photo. That was the man Daniel had whispered about. If he'd been there that night, everything changed. Marlowe flew to Jacksonville to meet the retired foreman from the 1998 road project. The man was old now, oxygen tube tucked under his nose, but his memory was sharp. He remembered the Coles. Good workers, quiet, always kept to themselves. Then he paused. There was another one, wasn't there? Short temper. Didn't last long. Raymond? Marlowe asked. The foreman nodded. Yeah, Ray. Used to talk about starting his own crew. Had that wild look, you know, the kind you don't forget. What happened to him? The old man stared out the window for a long time. He left. Or maybe he ran. The timeline came back to life. Raymond Cole, fired in 1996, disappeared soon after. 2 years later, Laura Jennings vanished, and in between, silence. Marlowe returned to Palm County, unease crawling beneath his skin. He pulled the original 1998 witness statements again. One line stood out, a trucker who'd reported seeing a second pickup near the sugarcane fields that night, its headlights off. The driver, he said, was a man with a scar under his eye. In Raymond's mugshot, there it was, a thin, pale scar cutting across his left cheek. The realization hit like thunder. The brothers weren't alone that night. Raymond had been there, and if Daniel's words were true, she wasn't supposed to be there. It meant Laura's death wasn't random. She'd interrupted something. Detectives reopened the dig site at mile marker 17. Beneath the hardened asphalt, they found traces of a second burial. Small metallic fragments consistent with vehicle parts, the kind used in older Ford pickups. They brought in heavy machinery, tearing through layers of road. What emerged made seasoned investigators step back in silence. A crushed vehicle frame, half melted into the earth. The serial number matched a 1992 Ford F-150, registered to Raymond Cole. Inside there were bones, not Laura's. The coroner confirmed it days later. Male, mid-20s, deceased for over 20 years. It was Raymond, the missing cousin. The one everyone thought had vanished into the dark. But how did he end up buried under the very road he'd once paved? Ethan claimed ignorance, said he hadn't seen Raymond in years. Daniel refused to speak altogether. Yet the discovery changed everything. If Raymond was dead that night, who killed him? And what did it have to do with Laura Jennings? The case twisted back on itself until no one could tell who the victim was anymore. Forensic teams extracted everything from the truck remains: hair, fabric, soil. In the driver's seat, they found traces of 2 distinct blood types. One matched Raymond, the other, Laura Jennings. The same combination found inside her car. It wasn't coincidence, it was collision. Marlowe reconstructed the scene piece by piece. Laura left the diner at 9:36. Somewhere along Route 41, she was flagged down, maybe by someone she recognized, maybe by a work vehicle she'd seen 100 times before. The Coles were locals. They were trusted. She stopped. What happened next? No one saw. But the evidence spoke. Blood spatter patterns, tire impressions, broken glass, all pointed to a struggle near the construction site. 2 sets of footprints. 2 men, 1 woman. And then the crash. The Ford truck went off the embankment, rolling into the soft soil before being buried in asphalt the next morning, sealed forever under the road. But there was no accident report, no mention of a missing truck, no record of a death. Someone had covered it up, and that someone had access to county permits. Ethan, he was the site supervisor. He could sign off on soil fills, asphalt layers, burial approvals. He could hide a vehicle under a stretch of new pavement and call it finished work. It explained why Raymond's body had stayed hidden for so long, why no one questioned a missing man already presumed gone. But it didn't explain Laura, because if Raymond died that night, how did Laura's remains end up in the drainage pipe miles away? Marlowe stared at the evidence board. Photos, maps, faces staring back. Laura's eyes seemed to follow him, calm, steady, waiting. He thought of Daniel's trembling words. He said it was an accident. Maybe it was. Maybe it started that way. He requested the autopsy report again. One note caught his attention. Fracture to the left ulna consistent with defensive wound. Laura had fought. Hard. Which meant she'd been alive after the crash. Someone took her from that truck, from that field, and left her in the pipe. Someone who wasn't dead. The realization hit with a kind of cold that felt alive. Raymond hadn't buried her. Someone buried them both. A storm rolled in that week, the kind Florida remembers. Thunder cracking open the sky, rain pounding on evidence tents. Inside the sheriff's office, Marlowe confronted Ethan Cole again. He slid the photo of the crushed truck across the table. "That's your cousin's Ford, buried under your work site." Ethan didn't look at it. "You were the one who signed off on the fill permit, the one that sealed the road." Ethan's eyes twitched just once. "That was 26 years ago. You knew he was down there." Ethan's jaw tightened. "No." Marlowe leaned in. "And Laura Jennings? You buried her too." Silence, the kind that vibrates. Then Ethan whispered, "You don't understand. He was going to hurt her." The words cracked through the room like lightning. Marlowe didn't move. "So you stopped him." Ethan's hands shook. "He took her into the truck. I followed. There was shouting. She tried to run. He grabbed her. I hit him. Just once." He looked up, eyes glassy. He fell. The truck rolled. "And then? I tried to help her, but she was bleeding. She wouldn't move. I panicked. I called Daniel. He said we had to make it disappear, that no one would believe it was an accident." The confession spilled out in fragments, guilt compressed over decades. Ethan and Daniel buried the truck before dawn, but when they returned to move Laura's body, it was gone. "She wasn't there," Ethan said. "We thought maybe. She got up, wandered off. We didn't tell anyone. We just filled the road and left." Marlowe's voice was low. "She didn't wander off. You left her to die." Ethan's head dropped. "I know." Outside, thunder shook the building. The confession closed one chapter and opened another. Because even as Ethan spoke, the forensic team called in another discovery, a new DNA trace from the drainage pipe. Male. Not Ethan, not Raymond, not Daniel, someone else entirely. A match to a parolee from Miami named Victor Lane, a former asphalt contractor who'd worked under Ethan Cole in 1990, arrested in 2002 for assault, released in 20. The missing link. He was the one who'd poured the final layer of asphalt over Raymond's truck. He'd been there. When detectives found him, he was living in Tampa, working maintenance at a storage yard. He didn't run. He didn't deny anything. "I knew you'd come," he said. In interrogation, Victor's version twisted the story one final turn. He said he saw everything. Said he saw Ethan hit Raymond, saw the truck go over the embankment. But he also saw Laura alive afterward, bleeding, terrified, crawling toward the canal. "I tried to help her," Victor said. "Ethan told me to get back in the truck. He said he'd take care of it, but when I came back, she was gone." "Gone where?" Victor looked up. "He said the swamp took her, but the swamp hadn't. The pipe had." Victor claimed Ethan came to him the next day, told him to seal the road and say nothing. Paid him cash. Enough to buy silence for a lifetime. It was the final puzzle piece, proof that the burial was deliberate, that the cover-up ran deeper than guilt or fear. Still, Marlowe wasn't satisfied. He knew what the DNA said, what the timelines said. But there was something in Ethan's confession, something off, something missing. The way he'd said she wasn't there, the way Daniel whispered it was supposed to be me. It meant one thing. Laura Jennings hadn't been a random victim. She'd been a substitute. For who? That answer lived somewhere between the brothers. And as the storm tore across Palm County, Marlowe realized he was no longer chasing one truth, but three. One buried in asphalt, one drowned in guilt, and one still waiting to be found. That third truth didn't live in lab reports or evidence boxes. It lived in people, in the gaps between what they said and what they refused to say. Marlowe knew it. He felt it every time he walked past the evidence board and saw Laura's eyes staring back at him. Not accusing, not pleading, just waiting. He pushed the science aside and went back to the beginning. Not the night of the crash. Not the day they dug up the bones. Further. Back to who Laura Jennings had been before she became a headline, a case file, a symbol. Her mother handed over the box with shaking hands. A cardboard archive of a life cut short. Journals, Polaroids, folded notes, pay stubs, college applications never sent. Laura's handwriting curled across the pages in blue ink, neat, careful, hopeful. By then, the media had already decided who she was. Beloved waitress, small-town dreamer, innocent victim. But the pages told a sharper story. Laura was curious, stubborn, the kind of person who didn't let things go. Marlowe flipped through the journals, scanning dates, circling phrases. The year before she disappeared was filled with the usual. Tips, arguments with her mother, late bills, small joys. But in early 1998, the tone shifted. The entries grew darker. She wrote about the highway. She wrote about men in orange vests. She wrote about a girl named Marissa. The name appeared first in January. Saw Marissa's mom again at the supermarket. She still checks the missing posters every week. It's been almost 2 years. How do you live like that? Another entry in February. Truckers talk too much when they're tired. One said they found a shoe out by mile 12 years ago. They laughed about it, I didn't. Then, in April, one of the road guys comes in every Wednesday, scar on his face. He asked if I remembered Marissa. I didn't answer. Marlowe's eyes stopped there. Scar. Wednesday. Road guy. Raymond. He turned the page. The next few entries were smudged, like the ink had been brushed by a wet thumb. I don't believe in coincidences. Same road, same crew, same stories. No body, no answers. If the sheriff won't look into it, maybe I will. It wasn't written like a threat, it was written like a promise. By June, the entries grew specific. Times, places, license plates. She wrote down names of regulars, routes, snippets of overheard conversations. She wrote about a man who watched her too long at the counter. He asked if I ever walk home alone. I lied. Marlowe closed the journal, pulse ticking. Laura hadn't just been a victim of random violence. She'd been looking into something, tugging at a thread. The same thread that led from Marissa to that stretch of highway to the coal construction crew. He asked Diane if Laura ever mentioned going to the police. Diane said no. She knew better, she said bitterly. Sheriff Harlan never did a thing when Marissa went missing. Why would he listen to a diner girl? But Laura didn't need permission. She had the road, the customers, the quiet hours after closing when secrets spilled like coffee. Marlowe went back to the Seabreeze diner. It looked smaller now, squeezed between a pawn shop and a payday loan office. The neon sign flickered, tired but still alive. Cheryl Hunt was there, hair grayer, shoulders heavier. She wiped the same counters she'd wiped in 1998, moving in circles like the years hadn't happened. She remembered Laura's journals. She remembered the way Laura asked questions, casual at first, then sharper, like she was circling something dangerous. She didn't just serve coffee, Cheryl said. She listened. Too much, maybe. Marlowe sat in the same booth that had once held road workers, truckers, drifters. He let Cheryl talk. She kept bringing up Marissa. Cheryl said. Said it wasn't right that the case just disappeared. When those road guys came in, you could tell. Some of them wouldn't meet her eyes when she mentioned Marissa's name. Which ones? Cheryl hesitated. Ethan. The quiet one, Daniel. And there was another. The one with the scar. Ray. He'd smile when she said it. Not a nice smile. Marlowe felt the familiar chill. The dead still moved in this town, just under the surface. Did Laura ever tell you she was meeting anyone from the crew? He asked. Cheryl's jaw tightened. She looked away. She asked me to switch shifts that last night. The room seemed to tilt. What? She was supposed to be off. I was on closing. But she asked if we could trade. Said she needed to see something on the late run. Wouldn't say what. I thought she had a date or something. Marlowe stared at her. The phrase echoed in his head like a taunt. She wasn't supposed to be there. If you hadn't switched shifts, he said slowly, you'd have been driving that road. Cheryl's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back for 26 years. I know, she whispered. I know. There it was. The guilt. The shadow that had followed her every step. It was supposed to be me, she said. The words hit Marlowe like a physical blow. He'd heard them before. From Daniel. Different context, same sentence, same shape. He walked out of the diner with the sky hanging low, the air heavy with salt and exhaust. The phrase echoed as he drove. 2 people, same town, same ghost sentence etched into their lives. It was supposed to be me. Different people, different directions, same center point. That highway, that night. He pulled the call transcripts again. Daniel's whisper crackled through the speaker. He said I was. It was supposed to be me. He'd thought Daniel meant guilt, survivor's remorse. But what if he meant something else? What if there had been more than one plan that night? More than one target? Back at the station, the lab had new results, the kind that made rooms go quiet. They'd gone back to the small fragment of bone that held trace tissue, the one pulled from the drainage pipe. Under fluorescent light and magnification, they'd scraped beneath what little remained of Laura's nails. There, clinging to the microscopic grooves, was another person's skin. Male DNA degraded over time, female DNA too, but they got enough. They ran it against the familiar profiles. Ethan, Daniel, Raymond, Victor. Nothing. No match. Then they widened the net. State databases, federal markers, open-source genealogy. And the system chirped back with an answer from somewhere no one expected. The partial match led not to a suspect, but to a family line. A distant relative. A woman in her 40s who'd submitted her DNA to an ancestry site years ago. She lived 2 towns over. Her surname, Harlan, the same as the sheriff who'd closed the case in 1990. Bloodlines have long shadows. When they followed the tree back, they found the link. A cousin, 2nd or 3rd from the sheriff's side. The algorithm suggested a close relative to the unknown female, likely a direct descendant from the Harlan branch. Unknown female. The skin under Laura's nails. Someone she scratched. Someone she fought. Someone related to Sheriff Harlan. Marlowe felt the ground shift beneath him. He requested Harlan's old personnel file. The man had died in 2012, heart attack on a fishing boat. He was remembered as steady, unflappable, a pillar of Palm County. But in the notes buried in his record, there were references to family issues, nepotism complaints, and one unresolved internal review, a report that he'd interfered with the Marissa Dale investigation. The complainant's name was redacted, but the connection was clear enough to burn. Marlowe dug deeper. Harlan's daughter, Erica, had worked part-time at the county permitting office in 1998. She handled forms for construction projects, road closures, fill approvals. She was 22 then, same age Laura had been, and she had access to everything Ethan Cole needed to bury a truck under a road. The lab couldn't say the DNA under Laura's nails belonged to Erica. Not definitively. The profile was incomplete, the bridge only genetic probability. But the family link was enough to put a new face near the center of the storm. Marlowe requested Erica's interview transcripts from 1998. There were none. She'd never been questioned. Not once. He drove to a gated subdivision on the west side of the county, the kind with manicured lawns and quiet streets. Erica Harlan lived in a beige house with white trim and closed blinds. She answered the door slowly, eyes narrowed, hand still on the latch. She looked older than her age, lines carved deeper than the calendar warranted. When Marlowe said Laura's name, her shoulders stiffened. "I remember," she said. "Everybody remembers." He asked if she'd ever met Laura. She said she'd seen her at the diner occasionally. Nothing more. He asked if she'd handled permits for the Route 41 project. She said she'd processed whatever came through. Didn't recall specifics. He asked if she knew Ethan or Daniel Cole. Her answer came too fast. No. The third truth stirred in the air between them. Marlowe studied her hands. Thin, pale. A faint scar ran along the back of her right wrist, nearly healed into invisibility. "You ever drive that road at night?" he asked. "Everyone does," she snapped. "It's Palm County. There's one way in and one way out." Her composure cracked then, just enough for something real to escape. My father did everything he could on that case, she said. He didn't deserve the things people said about him. Like what? That he protected people. That he picked which cases mattered and which didn't. Did he? Her eyes flashed. You tell me. She shut the door. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't evidence. But it was something else. A fracture. A place where pressure could break through. At the station, Marlowe laid out the new connections. The DA was cautious. The DNA was suggestive, not definitive. The sheriff's daughter was a career civil servant. No record, no known ties to the Cole brothers. Be careful what you dig up, the DA warned. People don't like ghosts dragged out of their families. But ghosts don't care what people like. They care about the truth. Marlowe went back to Laura's journals. There, buried 3 weeks before she disappeared, was an entry he'd skimmed before, but now it glowed like a flare. Talked to someone at the county office today. She told me I should drop it. Said the road contracts are complicated. Said people get hurt when they don't mind their own business. No name, just she. The next line, got a bad feeling. She knew my name before I told her. The page after that was blank. Then, 2 days later, I think I'm close. I think they used the road to hide more than traffic. If I'm right, Marissa didn't just disappear. Someone chose that. The last entry before August 12th. If anything happens to me, it won't be an accident. The words sat there in the silence of the evidence room, written by a hand that hadn't held a pen in 26 years. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't theatrical. It was matter of fact. A record. Marlowe closed the journal slowly. The official story said Ethan hit Raymond in a moment of rage, panicked, and buried the evidence. It said Victor helped for cash. It said Daniel hid out of fear. It said Laura was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But the journals said something else. Laura hadn't stumbled into that night. She'd walked into it with her eyes open, chasing a pattern no one wanted to see. A road, a crew, a missing girl, a county office that knew too much. She went there to expose something. The question that still had no answer was this. What did she see? Something worth killing for. Something worth burying under asphalt and mud and years of silence. Marlowe stared at the board one last time before leaving that night. Ethan's face. Daniel's. Raymond's mugshot, half-burned photo of Marissa. A younger Sheriff Harlan shaking hands with county officials. Erica's house framed in satellite imagery. In the center, Laura. All the lines pointed toward her, but none of them explained her last sentence. If anything happens to me, it won't be an accident. She'd been right. The problem was, the story still didn't add up. The case file called it solved. The press releases called it closure. DNA had named its culprit. Evelyn Cole. Killer by circumstance. Road crew conspiracy. Cold case, dipdodamantios neatly thawed. But the scratches under her nails still reached for someone no one had brought into the light. And somewhere in that space between what the evidence said and what the dead girl wrote, the real story waited, patient as the dark stretch of highway where she was last seen. Not solved. Not yet. Just quieter now, waiting for someone willing to listen to what it wasn't saying. Rain fell again that week, steady, unending, as if the sky had decided to wash Palm County clean and failed. The highway gleamed under it, mile after mile of slick asphalt, quiet now, like it knew what slept beneath it. In the sheriff's office, fluorescent lights buzzed and files piled higher than the desks. The case wasn't officially reopened. Not yet. But Marlowe couldn't let it go. He didn't sleep much anymore. His nights were filled with the sound of tires on wet roads, static on radios, voices cut short by distance. Sometimes he thought he heard her, Laura, in that static. Not words, just the rhythm of breath. He started visiting the old construction sites again, one by one. There were 9 of them in total, all along the coastal highway, built under the same county contracts between 1995 and 1999. He walked the edges of the sugarcane fields, the ditches, the forgotten lots where grass grew through broken concrete. Everywhere he went, he found signs of something buried, old fill marks, disturbed ground, pipes that didn't match the records. He called the county for the original maps. The permits were a mess. Dates altered, signatures missing, pages replaced, all routed through the same office, the permitting desk, 1998. Erica Harlan's initials appeared again and again. It wasn't proof of murder, but it was proof of manipulation. Someone had built these roads to hide things, not connect them. When he told the DA, she sighed. "You're chasing ghosts, Marlowe." He nodded. "Then it's time they stopped running." That night, he drove to the diner again. The Seabreeze was empty except for Cheryl, wiping the counter in small, nervous circles. The same circles she'd been drawing for 26 years. She looked up when she saw him. "You're still on it." "Still breathing," he said. She studied him a long moment. "You know there's something you're missing." He waited. She reached under the counter, pulled out an old cigar box, and set it between them. "Laura left this here, night before she disappeared. Said if anything happened, I should give it to her mom. I couldn't." "Why not?" "Because her mom would have opened it, and I didn't want her to see what was inside." She slid it toward him. The wood creaked as he lifted the lid. Inside, wrapped in yellowed napkins, was a cassette tape. The kind reporters used before digital recorders existed. The label, written in Laura's careful handwriting, read, "Interview, Harlan Permit Office, 8/11/98. The day before she vanished. Marlowe's heart hit like a hammer. He didn't play it there, not with the rain and the flickering lights and the ghosts in the corners. He took it back to the office, found an old player, pressed the button, and let the tape spin. The hiss of cheap plastic filled the room. Then a voice. Laura's, young, steady, nervous but determined. "This is Laura Jennings, talking to—" She hesitated. "Erica Harlan, County Permit Office, August 11th. A second voice came through, faint, measured, cautious. "I don't know why you're recording this." Laura. "Because nobody listens otherwise." A pause. "Erica, you said you had questions about the road project?" Laura. "Yes, about the contract extensions. About the ones from 96 and 97 that list 3 separate crews, but only 1 payroll." Erica. "That's not unusual." Laura. "It is when 2 of those crews are dead." A sharp breath on the tape. Laura. "I've been looking into Marissa Dale. Her mother said she went missing after working one of your highway events. I checked. She was listed on the subcontract roster." Erica. "You need to stop." Laura. "I can't. You signed the forms. You know what they did." The audio wavered, the sound of a chair scraping. Then Erica's voice, lower, strained. "You don't understand how deep this goes." Laura. "Then help me understand." "You think this is about one girl? You think it stops at the Coles?" "Then who?" Erica didn't answer right away. When she spoke again, the words were faint, almost swallowed by static. "Do you know how many projects my father approved between 95 and 99? Do you know what they buried out there?" "What?" "Not what, who?" Then the recording cut off. Marlowe sat there for a long time, the rain tapping on the windows like fingers. He rewound the tape, listened again. The same words, the same tone, the same final silence. Not what, who. He didn't sleep that night. By morning, he was back at the county archives, demanding access to the old construction contracts. Most had been digitized, but some still existed on paper. Sealed boxes stacked in a storage unit behind the courthouse. Dust thick enough to dull the years. He went through them, file by file, until his fingers turned grey. Every document with a Cole signature had a corresponding permit signed by Erica or Sheriff Harlan himself. But it wasn't the signatures that mattered. It was the pattern of dates. Every permit was issued within 72 hours of a missing person report filed somewhere in the county. Marissa Dale, 1990. An unnamed hitchhiker, 1990. Laura Jennings, 1990. 3 missing women. 3 road projects. 3 graves disguised as progress. The weight of it pressed into his chest. He brought it to the DA again. She didn't look surprised anymore, just tired. "Do you have enough to indict?" she asked. "Not yet," he said, "but I have enough to dig." And dig they did. The county authorized a quiet excavation at mile marker 12, the site of the 1997 project. Beneath the asphalt, they found another pipe, another cluster of fabric, another fragment of bone. It wasn't Laura. It wasn't Marissa. It was someone no one had ever reported missing. No ID, no name, just a body that shouldn't have been there. The press caught wind of the dig. The story broke again. Florida cold case expands. New remains found under highway. The town divided like it always did, between those who wanted truth and those who wanted silence. Diane Jennings watched from her porch as news vans rolled past. "They're all the same," she said softly. "They'll find someone to blame, and then they'll stop looking." But Marlowe wasn't built to stop. He went back to the tape, played it again. Slow, headphones pressed tight. Near the end, just before the cut, he caught something new, a faint echo of movement, a voice in the background. Male, low, almost inaudible. 2 words. "She knows." He sent it to audio forensics. They enhanced it, cleaned it, isolated the voice. When they returned it, Marlowe's stomach turned cold. The voice was Sheriff Harlan. He'd been in the room. It meant the meeting hadn't been an interview. It had been a setup. Laura walked into that office thinking she was confronting corruption. Instead, she'd walked into a trap. The next day, August 12th, she vanished. The realization broke something open inside him. He pulled the old patrol logs from that night. Sheriff Harlan's car was logged near Route 41 at 9:50 p.m. The official reason? Assisting with a construction accident. No report attached, no dispatch record, no witness statement. The same stretch where Laura's car was found. The same time the Coles said the truck went off the road. Marlowe felt the entire case shift like ground giving way. It wasn't just a cover-up. It was coordination. Sheriff Harlan had been there when the road swallowed the evidence. He'd written the paperwork, sealed the boxes, retired a hero, and his daughter, Erica, had carried the silence forward. When Marlowe confronted her again, she didn't deny it. Not anymore. She just said, it was supposed to stop with her. Then she closed the door. That night, Marlowe drove the coastal road one last time, the rain washing the yellow lines into a blur. The sugarcane swayed like it was whispering. He stopped at mile marker 17, stepped out into the wet dark, and listened. The hum of distant thunder, the hiss of insects, the faint pulse of water moving under the road. He knelt, hand pressed against the cold surface of the asphalt. There were 3 names in the files, but there could have been more. Maybe many more. The missing girls who never made the paper. The transients no one claimed. The ones whose bones paved the price of progress. He closed his eyes and saw Laura again. Not as a victim, but as the only one who tried to tell the truth before anyone else dared. He whispered her name once quietly to the empty road. The wind answered with a sound that might have been rain, might have been breath. He stood there until dawn, until the light turned the wet pavement silver. The world kept moving. Traffic resumed. Trucks rumbled over the ground that hid everything. In the sheriff's office, the DA filed the new evidence for grand jury review. The headlines spread across the state. DNA trail exposes decades-old Florida cover-up. Road to nowhere. Sheriff's family tied to cold case murders. Palm County's buried truth. But the victory felt hollow. Ethan Cole was in custody. Daniel had vanished again. Victor Lane disappeared before his court date. Erica Harlan resigned from her job and left town. The only people left were the dead, and the ones who still carried them. Marlowe drove one more time to Diane Jennings's house. He gave her the tape, told her what it meant. She listened without a word. When it ended, she said, "I knew she was brave. I didn't know she was alone." Then she looked at him. "Are you done now?" He didn't answer, because he knew he wasn't. The roads stretched beyond the county, beyond Florida. Contracts awarded under the same signatures, the same names, the same quiet silences. And somewhere out there, more asphalt covered more secrets. The case file closed on paper, but in his head, it stayed open, a wound that refused to scar. At night, when he drove past the fields, he sometimes thought he saw her reflection in the rearview mirror. Not a ghost, not vengeance, just a reminder that the truth doesn't die, it waits. And the road always remembers. The story should have ended with the indictment. The papers said it did. Cold case cracked. Family finds closure. The kind of headlines that make people turn the page, satisfied that the world is back in order. But the world wasn't in order. It was lopsided, tilted, balanced on things no one wanted to look at. Weeks slid by. The trial calendar filled. Ethan Cole's name appeared in black ink on court schedules. Lawyers filed motions. TV anchors practiced solemn faces in front of mirror-lit dressing rooms. And in a quiet lab 2 counties away, a tech in a white coat scraped dust from bone. The bone came from mile marker 12, the second grave under the road. The one that wasn't Laura, wasn't Marissa, wasn't anyone, and anyone missed enough to file a report. The lab had run it once and gotten the basics. Female, 20s, long dead. No dental records, no match in CODIS. But someone decided to go deeper. Maybe because of the press. Maybe because of the tape. Maybe because Palm County's ghosts had finally become interesting. They drilled into the densest part of the bone, where time clings the longest. Extracted a smear of tissue almost unimaginably small. Ran it through next-gen sequencing, fed it into the same genealogy pipeline that had dragged Ethan's name out of an old smear of blood. And then it spat out a familiar answer. The unknown woman from mile 12 belonged to the same family tree as the skin under Laura's nails, the same genetic branch, the same ancestral line, same Harlan blood. The lab forwarded the result to Palm County. The subject line was dry, the content wasn't. Partial match to reference profile, Harlan family cluster. Statistical probability of unrelated origin, negligible. He sent back a question. Are you sure?